You're never given a dream without also being given the power to make it come true. Good day, everybody, and welcome to this week's episode of Monday Morning Moments with Mark. I hope this finds you well. Speaking of well, that's what I was not yesterday. Just wasn't having a very good day, and there's a certain quality that I expect to put into this show, and I wasn't going to put out, excuse the pun, shit show, so I just didn't do it yesterday. Life's like that sometimes. But here we are today, feeling much better on the mend, and got a great show put together for you. As you saw in the open, we're going to talk a little bit about imagination and what it can really do for us in more than one aspect of it, and how it's different from creativity. But before we get into all that, we always have to start with the funniest thing. And this week's funniest thing comes courtesy of both Miss V and my good buddy Josh. So Josh was over for something other, waiting on me to get finished with work. We were going to go do something, and he's just sitting in there. And Miss V always has The Crown on, playing in the background, if not NCIS. And it was on, and I come out, and after watching The Crown for several hours, he says to me, I decided I was going to put on some sports of some kind or something, because I just don't get into that show. And he goes, "Hey man, it's kind of addicting." And I said, "Thanks. I don't need you to justify her behavior." She watches it all the time. But it does make for, good background information or good background noise, and there is some historical perspective to it. So, anyways, that's the funniest thing for this week. Moving on to talk about imagination. So, first of all, imagination is not ability. That would be more getting into creativity, where imagination is the dream or the vision, and creativity is the ability to turn imagination into reality. Imagination is the first part, and then creativity is developed as you go through the process of trying. I had the very fortunate pleasure in life of working at Disney World, not only Walt Disney World, but also at the Magic Kingdom, which is one of the most imaginative and creative places in the world. And it was from there that I was afforded the opportunity to create my vision for myself and what I want to be when I grow up. And this, where I'm going with all this, the whole platform and everything, and what I'm trending towards. And as it says, the quote on the website, and I will not change this quote until it becomes a reality: "You're never given a dream without also being given the power to make it come true." Richard Bach. So, what that quote and the idea of imagination and moving through creativity and becoming empowered because of it is part of three of the phases of the happiness success cycle method that I created, where you start with mental conditioning, the imaginative part of it, and then you start to believe that better is actually an option. Like, well, hey man, that's a real thing. It could be my life. And then you become empowered once you start taking a few steps and become a little bit successful at it. So in that, I want to talk for a minute about the difference of the concepts of wonder, which is actually one of the names of the Disney ships, WONDER, wonder, and allowing your mind to wonder, create up this imaginative whatever outcome, and then wander, which would be a great name for another Disney ship, to wander around the seas. Um, but going from wonder to wander. Wonder is imagining the destination. What does this, like the big dream of what could it all look like? And a lot of times that's way blown out of proportion. And that's healthy because, again, back to the quote, if you can imagine it in some way, shape, form, or fashion, you can become empowered to turn it into a reality. But then wandering, allowing your mind to first wonder and then wander, is the path to that destination. You have to allow time for to not only move from your imagination, but then wander yourself along the way of what does that process look like. And then once you start to see different avenues to get there, you have to try a couple of them and fail a few times probably, and that's okay. But I really wanted to focus on the idea of, sorry, the difference between allowing your imagination and your mind to wonder of something, and then having the courage to also wander the path, whether it be mentally at first and then eventually moving into physical action to go down some of those paths to get towards that imaginative place that you thought of. And until you have, the courage that I said to be able to do that, then it's just going to stay in imagination. And sometimes that's okay too. There are millions of ideas every day at Disney World that never leave the phase of imagination. They never go through the creative process, and that's okay. But when we're talking about our life successes, then obviously maybe we need to take a couple different steps. But don't be afraid to wander a little bit and see where you'll end up. Have a great week.